Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of the PRA podcast. I'm very excited to bring this episode to you guys. Um, you know, there's three things when it comes to life that I've always kind of like cycled through and figured out were kind of plaguing me. And that was the three E's. And I call those the three E's because it's ego, expectation, and excuses. And I was able to kind of whittle it down to these things because one thing that I started noticing was the fact that my ego was getting very inflated and inflamed. And I felt very entitled to things because I worked hard, right? Like because we work hard, we think we deserve certain things. It makes sense, but at the same time, you're not even entitled to your next breath. So you really got to think about it in those terms. What's up, Alex? I appreciate you coming on, man. So for one, it can be very tricky because the ego is somewhat of a magician. It's constantly kind of putting this mirage in front of you, especially if you're getting like in arguments. And it can be really hard to keep your cool, because you always think about it like, oh, they did this to me, so I'm going to do this to them. Oh, they did this to me, and I'm going to do this to them. But that's a very egotistical standpoint because you're like playing this game where you have to one up somebody because you have to win that game. And I was experiencing this as well, with just certain people in my life. And it's like, there's times where you want to hurt people. There's times where you want to get down to somebody else's level and kind of stoop to that. But at the same time, it's not you. That's not you. That's coming from something that is competition. That's not trying to go with the flow. It's trying to manipulate the system into winning. When realistically, if you just let go and you surrender yourself, and you realize and you're able to become the observer and see that the ego is happening, it really opens up a lot more doors for you to, explore. And so you become more curious at that point. You're not so much focused on getting back at somebody. You're more focused on diving deeper into kind of what's going on. And I realized that it's not, I was just speaking with somebody and I realized that it's not easy to do that for some people. And it wasn't easy for me to do either. It takes a lot of practice because sometimes I do get involved with egotistical things. And I just like, I get so, those moments where you just like get so ramped up. You're just like, I just like forget you, you know what I mean? And I understand, but at the same time, like there's better reactions that we could put forth. And then expectation, I always say, lack of communication creates high expectation. So everybody's just assuming shit at that point. I'm sure you've realized like the less you talk to somebody, the more you expect certain things from certain people. Like there's moments where, I don't speak with certain people in my life about certain things. And so I'm expecting certain people to do certain things. I'm like, okay, well, you would think it's common sense, blah, blah, blah. Like, but some people don't have the same truth system as you. Some people don't view the world the same as you. And you need to take that into consideration. That's why it's always good to over communicate, because when you over communicate, there is the only expectation is what you're communicating about at that point. And so there's a difference between like goal setting and having those expectations and having negative, bad expectations. You got to be able to know the difference. So I'm going to go over as well. And then excuses. Like excuses are really easy because they're really easy to make. They're really easy to conjure up, and they're really easy to justify. I was always making excuses for certain things that I wasn't doing because I just didn't want to do them because I wasn't feeling it, and there's a difference also between doing the things that you don't want to do to actually grow and just doing things that you don't want to do because they're actually depleting your energy levels. And you got to be able to distinguish that as well. And I'm going to go over that also. So, I'm sure we've had all of those moments in life where we've overreacted, but we didn't realize until after how irrational we were actually being. Or how many times that you have been disappointed by someone or had even just flat out made an excuse for something. So let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced that, if you've ever experienced a moment where you've been disappointed in somebody, or you've just made an excuse, or you've just been very egotistical. Let me know if there's ever been moments where you've ever, kind of fallen trap and victim to those things. because it's very easy to do. And also just let me know what kind of experience you learned. Like, how have you grown from that? Are you still making excuses? Are you still blaming other people for stuff? Or are you taking more accountability now? Let me know. Don't forget also, like I said, I'm also live in the Facebook group as well. But if you guys have not already joined, all you listeners or the people watching on Instagram right now, if you guys have not joined the Facebook group, please do so. Even if you have to cut this live right now in this podcast and literally go do it right now, go watch it on the Facebook group. It really helps me out because I'm just trying to build a community of people, of like-minded people who kind of think the same way to help us all grow out. But I want us to be all in different niches. So if you know somebody who is an expert in a certain field, or you know somebody who could benefit from some of the sectors that you see and some of the content that is provided, please don't hesitate to send them in that direction. Okay, it's www.facebook.pra or /PRA networks /groups. So just Facebook PRA network groups. Also, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. And basically, what's going to happen with that is the newsletter is now the 5-day gratitude challenge /training. So go to the link in my bio and sign up for the 5-day gratitude challenge /training. I really would love your guys' feedback on this because it's basically, that 5-day email sequence of videos that gives you guys my breakdown of gratitude, so it can hopefully help you guys or help you guys share it with others so you can help share the insight. And then don't forget to, if you guys are watching this post-production on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for all of the latest videos. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to read a section from my book called The 3 E's because I talk about these in there. If you guys have not already, please go and get your copy of Jericho's Journey on Amazon. And if you guys want to actually get a free copy of it, join the 5-day gratitude challenge /training, because afterwards you guys are going to get a link to the free course as well as an ebook, as well as this book for free. And you guys will just pay for shipping, obviously. That's just kind of how it works. But let me get into this real quick, and we'll go from there. And I'll break down kind of certain things that stick out to me. Let me know if certain things stick out to you specifically. And I really appreciate the feedback. So the ego is only an illusion, a very influential one. Letting the ego illusion become your identity can prevent you from knowing your true self. Ego, the false idea of believing that you are what you have or what you do, is a backward way of assessing and living life. Wayne Dyer. If you take, for example, all the most suitably successful people out there in all genres, Warren Buffett, Tony Robbins, Jeff Bezos, Jim Carrey, Drake, Beyonce, Jay-Z, LeBron James, Tom Brady, and even going back as far as Genghis Khan, all of these people had and have one thing in common, and that is awareness of ego. Not overcompensating too excessively, nor undervaluing themselves too little, seemingly exposing this middle ground. However, when you analyze the different parts of their lives in totality, the commonality over how they were able to become aware of it was the fact that they became curious. They were all constantly learning as opposed to replaying the wrong cycle system. The ego is one of the most deadly yet empowering parts of the human mind because it can become inflamed at any moment without us even realizing that it's happened. Having excessive amounts of ego can prevent us from seeing clearly because we get caught up in the smaller version of ourselves. It can make us feel entitled to do things, create blame and excuses for why we don't do things, and allowing for false realities to basically plague your dreams. It can be a double-edged sword because we can also have too little ego and lack of confidence ever to take a risk. Ego is like an immature kid sitting in the back seat wanting to make decisions for you. Similar to emotion, the important thing to recognize and acknowledge is that the ego is there, but not allow total strength or power. This is where logic and reason come in. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to hold this. Have you ever noticed when you're arguing with a spouse or a loved one, and once logic and reason come into it, all of a sudden the person gets mad that the reactive engagement isn't on the same wavelength as their emotional state? Or basically they get angry because you didn't get upset. Like, how many times have you got into an argument and the other person isn't even mad at the thing anymore? They're just mad because you're so calm and they think you're just trying to be this like condescending piece of shit, right? Exactly. That's their ego getting shot. The ego gets upset when we refuse to pay attention to the part that wants that instant sort of gratification. But when we control this and maintain a level of self-esteem that's both practical and reliable, this can set everything up in a much better way. We have mirror neurons in our brain that actually try to mimic that of others. So this is why you see people laugh together or yawn. It's the same concept for the ego when it comes to arguments. If both people in the above discussion or in the discussion that in the example I just gave you are thinking logically and have their egos in check, well, then this typically allows for a great and meaningful conversation, providing an excellent environment for communication and connection to grow and progress, to become stronger with a much more robust foundation. The ego will resort to arguments because because it thrives on competition. And once that becomes stronger than our own need for competitiveness with ourselves, then we've already lost the battle. So what do? Well, we become friends with our ego, because when you know your ego, you can identify your ego. And when you can do that, you can reference back with enough knowledge to keep the ego in its place. Whenever you feel that sense of hurt, disappointment, anger, frustration, here are some tips that I personally use to determine whether or not my ego is perhaps slipping away a bit from my grasp. And these are actually tips that I still do currently all the time, just to make sure that, my ego's in check and make sure that like it's not coming from an egotistical standpoint. Like, I'm not getting upset because of something that my ego is wanting me to get upset about, but something that's actually hurting my truth and belief systems within me. So know your ego. Here's how to know your ego. This is what I do. So ask yourself the following questions and be absolutely honest with yourself. Do I get mad or envious of others? Do I let out negative or positive emotions or comments towards opinions first? Do I accept the ways that the past has molded me? And am I nervous or humbled by what I believe the future has to offer me? If like anything that I'm feeling doesn't like coincide with any of that, then it's me coming from a very egotistical standpoint. Because if I'm getting mad, all right, so these 4 questions can help put the ego in check. It helps to put your perspective in order. And what that organization allows for is clarity. The clarity, in turn, will help you make better decisions and ultimately reform the ego to a healthy balance of leveled self-esteem. If you continue to get mad or envious, it's because you feel entitled to something. Ego. If you let out negative comments all the time, or even too many positive ones, either of those could be compensating for a threat to ego or lack of ego enough to insufficiently apply sustained confidence. If you accept the ways that the past has molded you, the ego is silenced because you feel at peace with who you are. If you are humbled by what the future has to offer you, then you believe you deserve great things, which is, a sign of maturity, because you're no longer in need for instant gratification. A person with sufficient confidence to continue on the path without giving into other distractions is a person with the ego that is understood. When priorities become clear, it's working. Not to say everyone is perfect, but there will be times when we feel ourselves losing control. But the ability to bounce back and take ourselves out of our own head is where the power actually lies. So that's the ego. That's the first part of the 3 E's that I kind of referenced. The second part is expectation. So when you stop expecting people to be perfect, you can like them for who they actually are. Donald Miller. Expectations come with contingencies, meaning when you put hope on something or a story of what you think someone thinks of you, then your actions become less genuine and more as an act that you put on for others, instead of you being a reflection of you at that point. You become a reflection of what others think you are. It's like that song by Eminem, The Way That I Am, in which he says, if he wasn't, then why would he say he is? Which is what we tell ourselves. We get it in our own head that that we are whatever we tell ourselves that we are, all based on what we believe others think that we should be. It's really like quite a phenomenon. Realistically, what we need to do is shut this out completely and block unhealthy expectations. Like how I was talking about, know the difference. I know that most say that you need to overestimate your expectations to reach higher levels of success, but this is like another version of that. This is the version where you exceed your potential by eliminating the values of others' opinions. It's okay to value truth and validity of intelligence, but you're not required to take any views to heart, nor should you. When people praise you, stay calm. When people judge you, stay calm. Remaining present while presenting unwavering courage will get you where you intended eventually. Either way, this all takes hard work and dedication, consistency with a combined level of enthusiasm for the whole process. Remember, always to empower yourself and to not downgrade your thoughts and your emotions. Become one with who you are and really focus on your self-awareness. The most important and valuable thing that you can bring to the world is your true self. The sooner we can grasp that concept and show as much compassion as we do to complaints and negativity, the sooner the world will be off to becoming a much better place. So deploy insane amounts of empathy and do not take things personally. Audit yourself and begin to form your habits early. Be the change by first taking accountability and accepting the leadership role in your life. Once you let go, you take complete control. And that's what most strive for. Nobody ever has it all figured out, but the ones that make it take the extra time to figure it out. All it takes is learning, growing, becoming more, and realizing that active patience is the key. Not instant gratification, nor unreasonable expectations brought on by ourselves or others. And that's the second part of my 3E thing. The third one is excuses. Let me see where I'm at as far as time goes. Okay, sweet. We still got plenty of time. All right. So the 3 E's is excuses. So fortune favors the bold. The Latin saying remains true: on the other side of fear is bliss. We're fearful of stepping up because it enters. Let's see, do you have a story about a time you let ego take control? Yeah, man, I absolutely do have a story that I can tell real quick about when my ego took control. That's actually, I was very unfaithful to my now wife because of my ego, man. I was very entitled to a bunch of shit, and like I said, I felt like because I worked so hard my whole life, like I've been working since I was 15 years old, like just grinding. And nothing has really come of it. Like everybody says, put in your time, this and that. And there's moments where like you can go hard, but in the wrong direction. And that's exactly what I did. And so like I was grinding, I was doing everything. And so like I just got really fed up with all of the thinking. Like I got really bitter, and I kept thinking, oh, everybody's wrong. But I don't really care. I'm just going to keep doing me. I'm going to keep putting out music, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, as an infidelity, man. Like literally, I was very unfaithful. I'm like surprised and very grateful that she's still with me, because she did leave me for a few days. And it was terrible, man. It was terrible. And it was like, because my son is with a different mom as well. So it was like that whole thing all over again. It was like, what am I doing? Like, like what am I learning at this point? Other than just the fact that I expect everything to go my way and kind of work in favor of me. And it's funny because when I shifted trying to take so much control, and so instead of trying to take so much control over every little thing, I kind of just let go, and I started becoming more self-aware in my thoughts and in who I am. And the moment I started to give into that was the moment that I started feeling so much more happy and so much less entitled to shit. And like the moment that I started learning about my ego and learning about the fact that like it was getting set off in these moments, that's what really was the game changer, was being aware. I think being aware and becoming aware of certain things as they're happening and being able to take that third person perspective and be the observer of your thoughts, the ability to kind of practice that and do that is absolutely insane. It'll help you so much because okay, so like when all that happened, what I realized was, in the moments that I was wrong, or in the moments that I knew I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, I was becoming very vulnerable, and I didn't like that. And it was like other people seeing my vulnerability that I didn't want. When in reality, when I opened up more, it allowed more connection, more strength, more courage to like be deployed throughout me entirely. And I think that a lot of people kind of get caught up in like, oh, what's this person going to think if I have these sort of feelings or whatever? And it's like, that's absolutely wrong. Like, because everybody feels these things. It's just a matter of being open about them. Um, let's see, more level. So like what ultimately made me become more level headed was honestly this, dude, like creating my own little like system for shit and executing on it when I know, like, so the way that I learn is through like a routine. My daughter has autism. We have a routine with her. I have like a routine every morning. That was one of the main things that really first started, like, I realized like I didn't have a set process. So when I started developing a routine, I started realizing that that's how I digest information. That's how I apply certain things. Is I cycle it through. So I created like a cycle for me specifically. That's why I came out with it. Was just because like I kept thinking to myself, all right, so what does life consist of, right? I was like, I'm obviously doing shit way wrong because I feel like shit. I'm a piece of shit. I view myself as a piece of shit. I really couldn't look myself in the mirror, to be honest with you, without feeling kind of like some type of way. I felt like a weirdo looking at myself in the mirror, and like I never felt proud of myself. So in order to like switch all that shit up, what I did was I looked at like the way that life broke down for me. So like I always view life as, okay, well, there's health, there's relationships, there's like a purpose in life. There's like these three things, whether you want to talk about regular just bills and stuff, like whatever it is, whatever the nuanced stuff, it all connects to like certain levels of health, like mentally, physically, and spiritually. It all connects to like certain relationships that I've built and connected or kind of depleted and burned bridges with. And it all came down to like me feeling like I had a purpose, like I was here for something, right? Because that's why I did music, is because I wanted to like people. I wanted people to hear me, like I wanted to be heard. I think a lot of people just want to be heard. And what really snapped it for me was, learning about health, relationships, and purpose, and diving deeper into like those in a micro level. So when I dove into health, I was like, okay, mental, physical, and spiritual. I'm always working out. I'm working on my health. I was learning about different things, and I became very curious about like mental, physical, spiritual health. I became curious about like how to develop relationships. I became very curious about like learning about what my truth and belief systems were. Because once I found those, I knew that I wasn't wasting my time learning. I was just doing what I naturally do and what's going to help me propel in my life. And so like when I started doing that, like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not like making all kinds of money or anything. Like it's not really about that. I'm just happier. Like I'm insanely happy every single day, regardless of the financial burdens, regardless of all of the stress that we carry every single day. I do believe that you don't need to, like, you can strip that weight. You can strip that weight and you can have healthy resistance for growth. You know what I mean? But the reason why I became so level-headed, man, was I just got more curious about what I was doing wrong, because I was obviously doing something wrong because I wasn't where I wanted to be. So why? Like, why am I not where I want to be? And more in depth with that is I tried to get more specific, because like, what did I even want? Right? Like, what do you even want out of life? Like, what specifically do you want? Is it money? Is it admiration? Is it, to teach people like ultimately, like, is it financial freedom? Like ultimately it just comes down to like, what do you want? Sorry if that broke up a little bit. Somebody's calling me. It all just comes down to like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? So I'm going to read this and then I'll just kind of break down like other thoughts that I've had regarding this same thing, man. And then if you have any questions, just keep shooting them. I love it. But excuses. So we've gone over, expectations, ego, and excuses. Self-accountability is probably, dude, I self-reflect every single day, probably 24/7. That's honestly where all of my everything comes from, is from my own like personal self-reflective point. Because I don't know, man. I always feel like I need to be working on myself. There's never a moment where I'm not trying to work on myself to just get to where I want to be. because like when I talk about specification and being specific, I don't want millions of dollars. I don't want none of that. I just want to help people out, and I want to be able to pay my bills. Like, that's it. I don't even need $100,000 at the end of this year. I don't need like all this shit. Like, I'm not greedy. I just literally want to help people, and I just want to be able to pay my bills. Like, that's it. Like, that's all it is. And once my wife and I dig ourselves out of debt, and we, are able to do other things, and, hopefully once this stuff starts to maybe propel into something, like, I can have, a network of people to not like give me anything, but just help me out and give me advice. That's the only thing, is just give me more advice, because I never had people that I could connect with on that level. I was talking about this with my dad earlier, and it's like, before I started the podcast, I was, applying for regular positions, right? Cashiers, like customer service representatives, like this low level shit, right? Because you think like, okay, that's what I need to apply for. But in reality, like, after I started realizing the power of like social media, and just the power of like knowing who you are enough to like be able to reach out to people and speak to people on regardless of financial level, it's kind of powerful. It's kind of insane, because what I realized was I was interviewing CEOs, I was interviewing founders of companies, I was interviewing, GMs already. So then it's like, it's crazy when you dive deeper into yourself and you get specific about what you want, how much more confidence you have when you speak, how much more confidence you have, and how much less you care about other people's opinions. That's honestly, bro, like the accountability that you just talked about. That's honestly what I talk about also with that 5-day gratitude challenge. Is the way that I break down gratitude is mindset, perspective, and accountability. And I go into like practices that I actually do, and I talk about them in the book as well, because that's where they came from. But it's just stuff that I do to kind of keep my shit in check. This is what I do on a daily basis. I continue to try to figure out different ways to help others create their own system for this stuff, because you don't learn the same way I do. It's not really like cookie cutter like that, but it's more about figuring out your truth and belief systems, what you hold true to yourself, who you are, what you want, and then going from there and cycling through your own little system and Rolodex that you can kind of refer to for stuff. And so like with excuses, we as humans are afraid of the unknown. I mean, I'm sure, you kind of just know that. We're afraid of the unknown, so we create excuses so we don't have to start. Do not overwork, but know that work is required. This is why we need to grind in our early years and keep going with as much prep work as possible in whatever direction we're planning on going. What I mean is, before you go crazy with working out, you need to do a warm-up set, right? To get the muscles working. I feel the same should go for us as well. This is what usually sets the tone. People claim that they have no time for this, they're too busy for that, when realistically, we all have the time to do anything that we truly want to do. I completely understand that we've got to work plus go to school, and on top of raising a family if we need to. So I understand that making excuses as to why our aspirations are not getting done. All these are valid reasons, because you've justified them and made these decisions bind to your habits. It's all about like making the right decisions in the present moment. Habits begin with words, but these are all just excuses that are too commonly used and have become an unconscious response due to the lack of aggression. Every time your brain receives the stress signal, it immediately reverts back to the comfortability stage and hasn't been adequately trained to push the bounds on the will or unlock a deeper level of consciousness. One of the ways that you can negate these excuses before they occur is by taking accountability for everything around you. Kind of like when your parents used to say, be honest, and the punishment wouldn't be as harsh, or much like if pleading guilty, you get a lower sentence. The same concept kind of applies. By taking ownership, you're already eliminating the excuse, because you're no longer blaming anyone else for the lack of control in your own life. Think about it. The more responsibility and accountability you have for everything that happens to you, the sooner you have control over your emotional reactions. Awareness is key. Awareness is key. So suddenly, when you get mad, it's because of you, not the end of the bed that you stubbed your toe on last night. Shift the blame immediately. It's hard to do that. It's hard to shift the blame immediately, because right away you want to just blame somebody else. Like, I get it, Shift the blame immediately. So If you get upset, it's because of your own fault. As soon as you can let go of your pride and your ego, the easier this will be. Most people don't want to do the hard stuff. And most people also tend to not want to be honest with themselves. I know I wasn't honest with myself for so long, yet as soon as I started to make these changes, I noticed a dramatic change even in performance at work. When times would get hard and I'd feel like quitting, I'd remember that it may not be my fault as far as the circumstances, but it's entirely my fault if I continue to remain in this position. So I began to make shifts in the way that I viewed work, sort of making it my own without remorse, if you will. See, the beauty of taking responsibility for your own life means nobody and nothing can control you. It's insane how when you make this change, you instantly report to yourself and yourself only. At that point, this is when the accumulation of the unknown regret can reform. Just lost my place. Can reform, but can form. Excuses in the past cause for habits in the present. Just think about that for a second. Excuses in the past cause for habits in the present, which ultimately creates disappointment in the future. Live a life of abundance, not a breath of excuses. Live a life of abundance, not a breath of excuses. Because what that will end up doing is leaving you with an excuse for a living. Eliminate excuses. We've got to set ourselves up for success. And the one thing that is entailed in doing things we're unfamiliar with is doing things that we're unfamiliar with. Everybody's terrible at something that they do for the first time. I bet you didn't stand up and walk for the first time, did you? You were probably, able to rise onto your own 2 feet, but perhaps plopped right back down. I always bet you tried your hardest to keep getting back up. And I bet maybe you cried, laughed a few times. And even though you knew that, you'd continue to fall and fall and fall and fall, you also had this conscious faith that because others were able to do it with ease and normalcy, you eventually would too. Right? I mean, am I wrong? I'm just kidding. But that very sense of self-belief is what strengthens who we are inside and keeps us striving. The same courage we display within ourselves and within our belief systems need to be consistently growing and adapting. Fear is a part of the journey. The difference in the people that gain any sort of happiness or success is the ones with abundance, who are willing to dive deeper into a deeper form of who they want to be. Like I was telling you, man, like it takes a matter of just self-reflection on the deepest level, knowing exactly who you are, what makes you tick, and putting that out. So let's see, where was I? In turn, that allows them to, overcome based on the perception that fears are the different levels of joy. The worse the fear, the higher amount of pleasure that lies behind that curtain. I always wondered when I was younger how all the fancy businessmen could predict the things that always seemed to know what was going to happen with the market, or could even relate this to simple tactics such as how to spend money and know when we're overspending. Even more so, how to use money logically to benefit the overall goal. The critical thing I never realized, though, was how much work I was not seeing to overcome the obstacles. It wasn't until a few years later that I would notice the fact that what I saw was just one glimpse, one small piece of a vast and well-orchestrated puzzle. That's what I think we forget. The fear that we face at every turn is what leads up to success. It needs to become transformed into a pursuit of joy from within the courage that we put forth, not the inner courage that we wish we could tap into. That, in essence, is the main villain, fear, at it again. However, now it comes as a manifestation of an excuse, not to start or only to see the fear, not the bliss that awaits us. When we see the people that we look up to, or when we watch their videos, we only get a 5-second to 1 hour clip of a compilation of their whole lives. Like, think about that for a minute. It isn't the times that they're working or doubting or even getting frustrated and becoming riddled with fear, but pursuing the dream anyway. Those moments, though, to me, are the things that make them who they are and what keep the good ones reasonable and make others great. The influence, however, is excuse built. If you really think about it, how do you think you may answer this following question? So how would you answer this? If you had to choose, would you rather watch a 23-hour breakdown special on the day-to-day life of LeBron James as a regular person without any relation to basketball? Or would you rather watch the 1 hour championship game against the Golden State Warriors? Like, which would you guys rather watch? Even if you're not a LeBron James fan, let's say like your favorite sports hero. Would you rather see the entirety of the come up without any association with their sport? Or would you rather watch the championship game of them and some other rivalry team and it's like once in a lifetime? Like, which would you rather watch? Most people would rather see the end point. Do not get your level 1, though, mixed up with someone's level 56. Life is a marathon, much as Jericho is about to find out. The sooner we can all focus on our race and not give into the fear of thinking that we don't have the capabilities or the resources someone else has, the sooner we can stop making excuses and start building on our confidence. No matter the rubble, we should all be able to find faith. And that's the last E of the 3 E's, which is ego, expectations, and excuses. See, exactly, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, and see, like, I feel like, most people, they would like to see, oh, I can't miss the championship game. I can't miss the championship game. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, yeah, but you're only getting like an hour long of like some endpoint and you're just glorifying it. Like, and it's funny because a lot of people are just critics when it comes to sports, and they don't realize like there's no absolute way that they could do what they do. You know what I mean? And it's just it's funny to me because I love that you see it the same way, because I think, yeah, most people, they just want to see the championship game. They don't want to take the time to just watch everything except for the association that's tied to it. And it's crazy to me that people are like that as well, because I think that those are also the people who think that, passive income is a thing. I need to just make millions of dollars without working a day in my life. Like, I think that, it shows in other ways, So just a little bit of kind of a breakdown of everything that I've gone over as far as what I just read to you guys. These are kind of all the notes that I write when I go through these episodes beforehand, and when I read these things, and what kind of sticks out to me, what questions I might have for you guys, that type of stuff. So, all right. So, are you aware of your ego? This is something that you guys are going to want to focus on a lot. You guys are going to want to know if you guys are being egotistical. It's very hard to realize. Like, I know, okay, so when my wife and I get into arguments, I'll use this as an example. But when my wife and I get into arguments, I get so defensive. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but this and that. Oh, yeah, but this and that. Oh, yeah, but this and that. And then I'll catch myself and I'll be like, why am I even playing this game? Like, okay, that's fine. If you want to blame me for this, that's cool. Like, it's all right. Like, I don't even care. Like, the bigger picture is, I'm still alive. We're still breathing. Like, it's just, to be able to see that is very hard, because you're going to want to win the battles. Like, you're going to want to win the battles. But, truth is, like, we all make the decisions that we make. So, I'm with her. She's my wife. I love her. This one argument's not going to ruin anything. You can have it. Like, it's fine. I'm not, you know what I mean? And then I know that some people have issues with, like, trust issues. Trust issues were a big thing for me. Insecurities were a big thing for me. And it was coming from an egotistical standpoint. Realize, and some people might not agree with this, but realize now that, like, even though, like, legally, she's my wife, even though legally they're your wife, even though, like, you have boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, whatever, like, you still don't control them as a person. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I was trying to do. It wasn't like being a controlling person or anything, but I was getting very jealous because I was like, oh, she better not be talking to this person. She better not be talking to that person. I hope this guy's not talking to her because he looks better than me. And oh my gosh. And what I realized was that's not coming from a place of truth and love. That's coming from a place of manipulation and me wanting to control everything around me. The fact of the matter is, like, if you can't trust somebody, you shouldn't be with them. And I realize that that's hard to hear. And I've gone through that too. I'm like, but like, I can't just cut it off because we're married and this and that. And it's like, well, yeah, I understand that. But that's when you need to understand, like, the practicalities of the decisions that you make. Like, are you coming from a place that's egotistical? You're getting all peacock chested because you're like maybe insecure about the fact that you didn't work out today, or maybe you're insecure about the fact that you're not confident in yourself. You need to take that step back and realize where it's coming from. And that's what I mean by being aware, because it's not easy to do. Sometimes you just think like, oh, but like blah, 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 blah. Instead of like giving your wife or somebody, like the other person, the significant other, like the respect that they deserve, in knowing that they would make the right decision, seeing that the best come from them. And then also just knowing that you're being the best you that you can be as well. You're building confidence within yourself. You're not being an egotistical person trying to control every outcome every single day. You're going to drive yourself insane. So yeah, that's just one thing. So anyways, be a student and remain curious, because it is absolutely vital. Ego is one of the most deadly yet empowering parts of the human mind. So identify your ego. If there's any homework from this, I would say identify your ego. Be more aware of that. Entitlement, blame, deflection, getting caught up in a smaller version of ourselves. And don't forget about mirror neurons. Don't forget about the fact that like the same thing that allows us to laugh together, the same thing that allows us to, yawn together, is going to be the same thing that's going to want us to keep going and keep performing this pissing contest. Who can piss farther? That's ego. Know your ego. Remember the 4 questions that I was talking about earlier. Ask yourself those 4 questions. Deploy empathy and don't take things personal. That's one thing that's really hard to do, because I used to take everything personal. I used to be like, man, all this shit is happening to me. Why is it happening to me? I'm working so hard, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, all this stuff's just grooming me. It's happening for me. But why? Get curious. Get curious. Let's see, where was I? And deploy empathy. I just did a story on this, and everybody's been posting the Ellen DeGeneres thing. I know you guys have seen it. I know you guys have seen the Ellen DeGeneres thing, where she's being nice to somebody that she is, and she's friends with people that she disagrees with. Deploy empathy. Be grateful, or be gracious to people. Like, be kind to people. It's always going to trump just like I said, playing the pissing contest and, oh, they did this to me, so I'm not going to do that for them. Like, if it's not going to benefit you in any way, it's not going to benefit the company, and you're going out of your way, and you're like overthrowing all this energy just towards this thing, don't do that. That's toxic. But like, just, you don't have to argue with people. You can respectfully disagree with people and still be friends with people. You don't have to have the same values. You don't have the same beliefs, So deploy empathy. Low communication. Remember, lack of communication equals high expectations. So start to over-communicate with the people in your lives. Start to over-communicate with the people in your lives, and it'll eliminate the assumptions. It'll eliminate, oh, this person should have done this for me. They should have done that for me. You'll start to see like, no, I'm grateful when they do this for me, but we didn't really talk about that. It really wasn't set in stone. It wasn't like a full-on thing. You got to really know that. You got to understand that. Remain calm and poised. Active patience is the key. So what I mean by active patience is just continue to do what you're doing at a rate that you're doing it, but be patient for the process. Know that the process is going to work. Have faith in the process, but also know that, it's not going to happen overnight. So you got to continue to keep being consistent and speedy with all the stuff that you're putting out, all the stuff that you're trying to do for whatever kind of change you're trying to make. Be poised. Be poised. Habits begin with words. So start to work on your self-reflection. Start to work on the words that you're telling yourself, the things that you're telling yourself every day. Are you building yourself up every day, or are you tearing yourself down saying, I can't do this? Realize what you're telling yourself. Justify excuses with not having time. Everybody's got 24 hours. You can't tell me that somebody's got an advantage over you as far as time goes. They might know some more people, but it's because they networked the shit out of themselves to get to know those people with the time that they had. So do a time audit. I always say, first and last hour of every day, do a time audit, see what's going on, see where your time is being spent, figure out what's going on for the next day, and plan accordingly. Okay? Take accountability early on. Taking ownership eliminates the excuse. Remember that. So take the accountability and take the blame early on. So that way you eliminate the excuse right away and you solve the problem. You become a problem solver. Shift the blame to you and focus on the emotional reactions. Focus on your emotional reactions. Become the observer of your thoughts. Don't become invoked in your emotional reactions. Focus on them. Realize what they're telling you. And then have self-belief and do the unfamiliar thing, because that's what's going to push you to grow. It's what's going to challenge you to grow further. Focus on your race, not anybody else's. Focus on what you are providing to your marathon. Focus on your breaths. Focus on looking up. Don't look around you. Focus on your road. Focus on what you have and what you can build with what you have. Be resourceful in that sense. Build confidence. No matter the rubble, find faith. So like, regardless of what's going on in your life, whether your life is just in complete shambles or whether it's about to be in complete shambles, just hang on, have faith, keep putting one foot forward and realize that you're here for a reason. You're here for a reason, but you've got to become aware of the ego, because if not, you're going to get confused with what's threatening you and what's trying to help you. Because having humility is major. And when you can let your ego aside, it allows for humility to show its face. And you can be like, wow, I didn't realize admitting that I didn't know something was so powerful. I didn't know that admitting that when I was wrong was so powerful. But you can't do that if you're clouded with ego. Eliminate the unhealthy expectations, by communicating more with people in your life and seeing where they're at, seeing where you're at. And just checking up on people. That's part of networking and growing your network and growing relationships as well. All the people that I have had on the podcast or all the people in the relationships that I made, I'm always talking back and forth with people and seeing how they're doing and how their progress has been. And because I'm genuinely curious about getting to know the person and the people. And I just want to create that longevity. And because I know that, like, if I am over communicating with people, they're not going to be expecting me to do something that we haven't discussed, or they're not going to be expecting me to like do some random act of greatness out of the kindness of my own heart or like whatever, if we haven't like really discussed anything, So, but you will expect certain things from certain people, and you'll be much more disappointed if you're not over communicating with people. And then just eliminate the excuses. Why? Because it's like finding that light. It's like the excuse is just you not valuing what you can do, not realizing your potential, So don't use excuses, guys. Eliminate unhealthy expectations, become aware of the ego when it's getting set off. That's pretty much all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys might have taken some value and learned. It's a little bit longer of an episode. I'm usually starting to do 30 minutes. This one was actually almost an hour, so that's absolutely awesome. Good vibes. If you guys have not already, like I said, please subscribe to the podcast. First and foremost, right after you get off of this live, please go to the link in my bio and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, anywhere that you can get your podcast. Rate and review the podcast because it helps us grow. And don't forget to join the PRA network if you're not already joined. If you're on Instagram, if you're listening to this, or if you're watching this post-production on YouTube, I will include a link down in the descriptions and the show notes as well. Like I said, don't forget to comment if there's been a time that you have, made excuses or you've been affected by your ego in certain ways, and it's just kind of hindered your growth. And how did you overcome these unhealthy expectations? How did you overcome the excuse-making mentality? How did you overcome, going from you can never admit when you're wrong to now you can do it and you understand where it's coming from? Like, what allowed you to kind of create that shift in your own life? Let me know in the comments below. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell if you guys have not already, if you guys are watching this on YouTube. And thank you guys for watching the early podcast episode. This will be out on Monday. And yeah, I just appreciate you guys. Don't forget also the 5-day gratitude challenge / training. Please sign up. Like I said, I finished all of the emails. I just have to format them now. But it comes with basically this almost like everything that I just read to you. this long-formed idea of how I break down mindset, perspective, and accountability with videos for each thing. You got an intro video and then an outro video. And then at the end, like I said, you guys will receive a free copy to the book. So you guys can get a free copy. You just pay for the shipping. And you guys will also get a link to the gratitude training course. And you guys will also receive a free ebook as well. So just a bunch of free stuff for signing up for a free thing that I just want your guys' feedback on. So let me know what you guys think. And then also, lastly, if you guys want to just get the book, amazonbooks.com. But I'll include all the descriptions that you guys need below in the show notes or the description, depending on where you're watching this. Good vibes, guys. I really appreciate you guys, your guys' time. If there's anything that you guys need, any help with anything that you guys need, please let me know. Man, I forgot to show this to you guys too. So bam, yeah, free book, free ebook, free course, everything. So good vibes. Let me know if there's anything you guys need. Peace out.